Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss the first of the little flurry of MRP polls that we're expecting over the start of this week. Particularly interesting as they will represent the first where fieldwork was taking place as Nigel Farage joined the circus and Rishi Sunak kicked a political hornet's nest by leaving D-Day early. Now, I'm not going to just focus on the raw results because this is one MRP poll. Different pollsters come up with different headline results, and we don't yet know which one is likely to be the closest to the actual result until after the election. Besides, with things still in flux, it's probably only the very final MRPs which can really be that close anyway. Though it's worth pointing out that some postal votes have gone out, so some votes have been cast already. And if you want a postal vote yourself, remember, it's not just because many of them have gone out doesn't mean it's too late. The deadline for registering to vote, however you want to vote, is next Wednesday, June the 18th. And the deadline for registering for a postal vote is the day after next Thursday. But anyway, what I'd like to look at initially is how this Survation poll changed with its earlier version from March, which was before the local elections and before this general election was called. The first thing to note, however, is it does not have Reform UK winning anywhere near as many votes as the Conservatives. In fact, it's about half on this MRP. As unpopular as the Conservatives are right now, I just don't see a pathway to Reform UK matching them in votes won. Their appeal is too narrow and their ground campaign doesn't really have the infrastructure. Granted, the Conservatives' ground campaign is not brilliant either, but still. In terms of seats won, it has Labour, the Conservatives and the SNP on fewer seats compared with their MRP in March, and the Lib Dems and Reform UK making gains. It's also worth pointing out that despite some voting intention polls suggesting that the Tories will finish in third place, this is not what any MRP has said, and this hasn't changed with this new one from Survation either. However, it does show just how close it is now with under 3 weeks still to go. And Survation provide an upper and lower limit for seat projections, which is useful in showing just how many seats are expected to be won by small margins. So, although the headline result is the Conservatives winning 72 seats, their model says they could go as low as 45 seats or as high as 132. In other words, if people really make sure they turn out to stop the Tories, they could be left with just 45 seats, and maybe the Lib Dems with as many as 67. But if people are more apathetic about it or don't see the advantage in stopping the Tories setting the opposition agenda, then the Conservatives could still get away with up to 132 seats. Yes, their worst result ever, but not a wipeout, not even close. They would be in a position to still dictate the public narrative in their client media and be able to rebuild over time as well. This is the message I want to keep impressing on people. When you see an MRP poll and you look at the seat breakdown, it's not saying that those seats are solid. A lot of those seats are being won by very small margins with the main challenger. There are a lot of seats around the country where it really doesn't take too much effort to get rid of the Conservative candidate, but equally, it doesn't take much extra apathy to let them win again. Not win power, but win those seats. There's another poll out showing that 36% of people want the Tories to lose all their seats, with about another 22% wanting them to not be beaten down to no seats, but have some seats, maybe up to about 50 seats. So you could suggest that 58% of the public, according to this poll, would be very happy with the Conservatives on about 40 to 50 seats. Present, existing, but not dictating the political narrative. On the other side, the concept of a large Labour majority, which is the price you pay for this, only 33% they'd be worried about a Labour winning 500 seats, and 500 seats is a bit mad. I don't think that's going to happen. But 51% say they would be happy about this, and 48% positively excited. So although this poll shows that these elections could well show major gains for these smaller parties, potentially a record low share of the vote for the big two, but that'll be largely down to the Conservatives crashing to by far their lowest share of the vote, and it's been diminishing for the combination of the two anyway. People seem happier with the concept of the Tories being beaten down into almost but not quite irrelevance, and not really concerned about the consequences for Labour's majority, which means there should be no great fear outside the Twitter sphere of any perceived downsides for voting tactically to get rid of the Tories. It should just be a case of explaining to people that this election is no longer about removing the Tories from government. This is going to happen, but we also want them removed from their position of having free rein to talk about absolute crap in Parliament as well. Essentially, voters don't want the Tories to be obliterated, but they would be happier with the Lib Dems leading the opposition against Labour in the way I'd surmise recent polling. So going back to this MRP poll, how are the Lib Dems doing? Because they need to maximise their seats to make this plan work as well. Well, they're on an almost identical share of the vote in this MRP compared to the March one, but are winning way more seats. There's a significantly greater standard deviation in the latest results for the Lib Dems, which suggests that they are making their vote more efficient, as I'd been suggesting. In other words, accepting a loss of votes in places they cannot win in order to gather more support in places they can. In terms of other little things to note with this MRP, it has the SNP winning significantly more seats than other similar polls. Now, it is the case there are quite a few seats being contested between Labour and the SNP, which are potentially fairly close. Survation has them tipping on the side of the SNP, other pollsters the other way. We'll just have to wait and see how the chips fall there. But although I might have a view as a Labour supporter, they don't impact the anti-Tory main project, so of less interest to me. Another is the suggestion that Reform UK could win 7 seats. Now, this is spectacularly unlikely. The way this MRP poll works, it works out probabilities of a party winning certain types of seats. So what it does is it gets that probability and multiplies it by the number of similar seats. And from that works out how many of those seats it's likely to win. But once you break it down to the actual seats involved, it's hard to see Reform winning really more than 2 or 3. And that's like moonshot for them. So this latest MRP poll shows that beating the Tories into 3rd place is on the cards, but not the likely outcome as yet. It also shows that you don't need an unrealistic change of voter attitude to make it happen. It's quite close. Now, for those who want to vote tactically, or know people who do, or might do, let's look at where we are. First of all, postal ballots are going out. Some have already gone out, some have already filled them in. Some places do not yet have a tactical vote recommendation. Now, this is frustrating for people living there, especially if you've got your postal ballot now. But just remember, if there isn't a recommendation right now, it's because there is not as yet a clear answer as to who that tactical vote is. And when a recommendation is made, it's sort of like a balance of probability. It's not going to be super confident. If it's taking this long for the likes of StopTheTories.vote to come up with a suggestion, then it's because it's in the balance. Now, it is still worth voting tactically in these seats, if that's what you want to do. And there will hopefully be a recommendation appearing once this latest round of MRPs finishes in a few days. But let's be honest, if it's that tight between 2 tactical choices, it's probably really hard to get everyone in that constituency to back one of them anyway, even if they want to vote tactically. The seats to mostly make this Lib Dems in 2nd place a reality are those where a progressive party is in striking distance of the Conservative candidate and it's clear who that challenger is. Now, it may well be that we do flip the odd seat where the tactical vote is tough to call. So it's absolutely waiting a bit longer for the advice. Remember, most people don't need to send off their postal ballot right now, unless, of course, you live outside the UK or you're about to go on holiday. But if you can, I would just wait a little bit longer. But the people who are going to make history are going to be mostly in the seats where the tactical vote is known clearly. Just try to encourage others in those constituencies to engage. Deadline for registering to vote is next Wednesday. Deadline for postal votes is next Thursday. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe for further content and click the like button. You can also sign up for memberships if you'd like to support the channel further. Thanks for watching. And until next time, I'll see you later.